Hey guys, we're live on the moon. Early Saturday morning, October 22nd, almost 6 o'clock in the morning. Another all-nighter for Bill. Well, I actually got up at 3 and I've been running tests for hours on end. This is a unique shot, guys. This is a 25 millimeter lens, and we're looking at it through a camera mount that Mike and I have been working on. I'll show you more of all that later. What's unique about this lens is this camera and this setup is uh, you can use regular camera lenses with this particular rig. And again, this is a 25 millimeter lens, and we're using it with this camera. If you look right there, this is the first time you've ever seen it like this. This is Crystal Lake, that area that I've been talking about that has structures and things on it. We're going to be zooming in on these in a minute. What I want to do is just kind of do a quick survey with this lens of the entire moon, like I'm doing right now, and then we're going to go in there and look at it with a regular 5 millimeter lens and do a similar survey. And then we're going to finish it up with my regular camera and compare it. Isn't that beautiful, guys? And I haven't on this one, but you can see we're seeing quite a bit of the moon, but more than we've ever seen on one frame. But I do have capabilities of showing you the entire moon. Let's see that fissure, we were looking at that before. The entire moon on the screen at one time. But I'm not going to do that tonight because that I would be using a lens that Mike has called made by Solar. It's a solar lens that we've got, Mike's got, and I borrowed. Okay. Now what I want to do, I have everything auto right now except I turned autofocus off because I think I was having a problem with their autofocus. There's an autofocus zoom on it. Well, let me show you how the zoom might work. See that right there? Let me zoom in on that. 1, 2, 3, 4. See, I could zoom in a little bit, not very much on this 25 millimeter. But as I said before, we can see quite a bit more area than our regular camera. And this should be in high definition. This is using a 10 megapixel camera. You are guinea pigs tonight, guys. You're going to be experiencing high adventure with new toys, new toys, new cameras. And as we get into this, we'll actually show you pictures of what this thing looks like and everything. But for right now, uh, we're just conducting some experiments, and you're along for the ride. Okay, that's a good first test. I'm going to pause this and flip and put in a 5 millimeter lens using the same camera. We're using the tools of the trade, using the lens that comes with the telescope or lenses that you buy. So hang with me and we'll try this test with a 5 millimeter lens. Okay guys, we're back. Now this is an extraordinary test because I'm not doing anything special. I'm using this new camera that Mike and I are putting together, and I'm using a 5 millimeter lens. The only downside I see is the frames per second are lower than uh, the other camera. It's about 5 frames a second, 4. It jumps around. The other camera was 6. It's in the same range, but it's just a dab lower, but it shouldn't make too much difference. But the thing is, we're getting an extraordinarily close. I'm not using a Barlow, guys, uh, and I'm using a the camera that Mike and I have designed. It was my idea, and then I ran some tests, and then Mike had this mount built up for it at a machine shop, and we got 3 of these things made up, and I'm conducting the first live test of it. I'll show you the camera and I'll show you everything else. This is a 10 megapixel camera with zoom, auto zoom, and autofocus. Right now, its autofocus is off. I'm conducting tests. I'm in the Crystal Lake area. If you can remember this crater right here that we looked at before with a ramp and what looked like a bunch of hornet nest craters in the middle, it looks to me like they're just a pile of rocks. Now let's do this. We're we're looking at it. Let's turn autofocus on and see what it does. And you can see it does pretty good. Now let me do a zoom. Let me zoom in on this pile of rocks. Oh, that's extraordinary. I'm saying that I'm just talking out loud as I'm looking at it because this right here uh, we've seen before, but we've only seen with a Barlow. And I don't think that we've seen as clear an image as we've ever seen. Uh, I mean, you can see so much detail here, it's just unbelievable. So we are getting in closer than we've ever gotten before, even with a Barlow. And you say, well, can you use a Barlow with this lens? Yes, I can. I can use a Barlow with this lens probably better than I can use with my other camera. Now, just take a look at this image real clear. I've got it zoomed in as far as I can go. I'm just using the camera and a regular 5 millimeter lens. And the image almost, it doesn't fill the screen up, but it does, and I'm doing 5 and 6 frames a second. So that's adequate. And I have a zoom, auto zoom, a autofocus, auto zoom. Let me zoom back out. The downside to this camera is if I zoom out too far, I'll get let me zoom out too far. See, that's about halfway zoom on this camera. It's a 10 megapixel camera. And look at all the detail. You can actually see, it looks like snow, but it's actually probably sand or whatever. Now let me zoom out one more frame. See the telltale signs of and 2. If I go too far, see, you can see so the trick is you don't start With this camera, you start kind of right there, about halfway. That's even halfway on the settings of this camera. So you start the zoom halfway, and from there you can zoom in with flexibility. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 times you can zoom in. So with this camera, if I am using it like it is, and I see something interesting, all I got to do is zoom. And I'll back out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 times. Okay, let's do a survey of the moon with this camera. And in particular, let's look at this so-called complex that I've seen at Crystal Lake. And you can see why I said they were buildings. They look like buildings. They look like structures. And in particular, I was looking at this building down here that looked like an atrium even. Well, let's look in that with the zoom and see what it looks like, guys. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's about as close as I can get. But you can see right angles, and you can see what appear to me to be structures. I don't know what they are. Maybe it's a mountain range, but maybe they are structures. And these still could be structures. I got to look at that with a Barlow. Got to get even closer. Let's go over here to where we were looking at some of these other buildings. There's that rectangular building right there. See that? By the way, the settings on this camera, the way I have it set up right now, it's all autofocus, and the advanced settings, the brightness and contrast controls are set up automatic, as well the color. But right now we shouldn't see very much color because of the and over here, there's our right there. There's our right angle, L-shaped building right there. You can see it kind of weaving in and out. Let me turn autofocus off right now. And let's back off on the zoom. And take a look at what we were looking at. See that L-shaped building right there? And there's that crater that's half underwater, and there's that that rectangular building. There's that building complex we were saying was a hangar, and there's that atrium complex that still could be. I mean, who knows what it is? Got to look at it closer even. But I should say that let's just do a survey from here. Let's just go. Let me turn autofocus on again. You can see it kind of jumping in and out, getting in focus, which is okay. And let me go to advanced settings on this camera and turn the brightness down just a bit. See, we can control the brightness a little bit. Color intensity up. Restore to defaults. It seems like we're getting a lot more detail. I'd like to compare it to the other camera because the other camera I've been using has been extraordinary. See how it jumped in and out? That's that autofocus. But you can see it does seem to be getting in a lot closer than we've ever seen. See, instead of just looking like mountain ranges, they look like, almost look like trees. I know they're not trees, but let me zoom in on that. That's a neat thing about this camera. You can just zoom. See the granularity of the mountains instead of just, it looks like it's got trees or something. I don't know what it is. And let me turn the autofocus off, okay, and let me see if I can focus it manually any better. So you can see I'm having a difficult time with the manual focus, and when I turn autofocus on, it really does a damn good job at the focus. We'll be back out. But if you're comparing these images to things that I've been taking before, these are as close. These are closer than anything I've ever seen with clarity. I know we're not seeing the color, but see, we shouldn't be seeing any color right now. This moon is almost, we got one more night of moon and it's gone. See how it just jumped in and out of focus there? And look at the detail of that. See, this is getting closer than we've ever seen on the moon. Absolutely no doubt about it. The only downside I can see is the frames per second. It's slower. That means it's not quite as smooth. Look at all this small crater detail. Let me just pause right here. See all these little tiny craters and see the mountain range here. Let me use the zoom again. See how far. See, this is a 10 megapixel camera, so it's a very high quality, high-end camera. It's going to give us resolution such as we've never seen. That's taking advantage of it. See, you'd think it would be a software zoom, and in a sort of fashion that it is, but we're seeing more detail even with this zoom than before. Clearly, the autofocus is not a software focus, it's a mechanical focus in the camera. And you can see that because it brings quickly in and out of focus what we're looking at, it looks better. It looks better, and it looks with more clarity. And you can see these real tiny. Let me back out. Aren't they extraordinary pictures, guys? Again, I'm going to do the same survey. I'm going to put that other camera in that we've been using and we'll compare it. I think that we're seeing closer than we've ever seen before, myself. See how it kind of went out and then it's focusing again. And there's our slither. The famous slither on the moon. Mike and I have been working on this thing. Well, when we got the telescope, I came up with the idea, and then I showed Mike. I made up a camera, and then he's involved in building things, and he decided he could get it made up, and he got some prototypes made up, and that's what we're using right here. One of the three that we had made up. Aren't those beautiful pictures? You say, are we going to sell them? No, we're not going to sell them. But if this works out, we'll probably make them available uh, somewhere. Do I make any money on this? I don't make a dime on this stuff. Nothing. But isn't this cool? We're really getting in pretty close right now. Real close. Whoops. See how see if it gets in focus again. See how did a pretty good job of getting back in focus. Let me turn the autofocus off right here. Now see, I turned it off. Okay, now see this area here? I'm going to turn autofocus back on. Let's see if it goes in focus. Yeah, I think it did. I think it did. I think the focus is working very well. The only thing about the focus is it kind of pulls in and pulls out sometimes. Uh, but, I mean, if I can see clear across the board, I could live with that. I think the trick would be to learn to use the autofocus properly. I'll give you an example. Like right here, when we have the edge of the moon, with autofocus it might be jumping in and out. But if we are on the surface of the moon clearly, you have the entire image being focused by the camera. So it should be a good time to use it. Right now we're doing 5 frames a second, which is going to be fine. I said before that this particular image is a let me do this. Let me just try to, I turned autofocus off, and I'm going to try to manually focus it in right now. Just to give you an idea of how difficult it is to manually focus. That's about as good as I can get with a manual focus. Now I'm going to go down here and turn autofocus on. And I don't know about you, but it seems to me like autofocus works better than manual focus. It actually gives me an overall clearer picture. I think I'm going to really enjoy using this camera. I'll be anxious to use it with the full moon and with more uh, color. See, I just went down there and the autofocus thing jumped down real quick. So evidently it really is working. The autofocus is really working. Like right now, see how it tries to get in all these things in focus. It should be real interesting to compare this camera with the one we've just been using. Number one, to see how close it is really, and number two, to just look at the clarity. And that is a slither of a slither. Ha ha ha. If this is the first time you've joined me, my name is Bill Bryson. I'm from Richmond, Texas, and I try to get out every night and do a survey of the moon. And I've been using a Chinese camera of high definition, which has served me very well. And I'm experimenting with a new camera that my friend Mike and I have been working on. Um, I came up with a prototype, and then Mike decided to try to get it machined up. So we got a really nice machined product to mount the camera. No, I haven't told you what camera it is, but I will soon. I wanted to see what the results were before I said anything. Okay, uh, look at the detail. I think that is as close as we've ever seen. We see granularity right there that we've never seen before. And let me zoom in on this right now. And that's a nice thing about this camera. It does have a zoom. And when we zoom in, we don't lose, we actually do zoom in. We can see things that we didn't see before. And I think that we're seeing things in this crater that we've never seen before, even with a Barlow. Let me zoom back out. The only thing missing on this particular run is we're not seeing a lot of color. But my friend, if you went back and looked at my other pictures of this area at the same time of the month, I wouldn't have had any color there either. There is no color on the moon right now because we're in the last quarter. Tomorrow night's going to be the last night that I'll be able to film video. Okay, I'm going to pause this, and what we're going to do is we're going to put the original camera on and see what it looks like. I'm impressed. And when you see with this camera, it goes in and out. It's that focus, but you can see the focus really gets you closer with detail. Hang with me on the back side. Okay, guys, I'm back, and this is the Chinese high definition camera I've been using forever, and there's no comparison to the camera that we've just used. If you remember, I was on this same image. This is as close as I can get with this camera right here, as close as I can get. And with that new camera, it filled the screen up. It was, I would say, I don't know, one time bigger would be this big, at least 2 or 3 times bigger, 4 times bigger. I don't know. And the other thing is you can see so much more detail on all these mountains and everything. You can see granularity of the mountains. To do a fair comparison, I have focused this as best I can with my focuser, but I mean, we were seeing there's that L-shaped building, and there's that rectangular building, and there are those other buildings, and there's that one that. But you can see with the other camera, we were actually seeing uh, more detail. So I think that the camera that we've been working on is going to be a very successful if I can learn to use the right combination of lenses with it. And it'll take some time, so you'll have to kind of bear with me, but I think we're going to be able to do some very, very good surveys of the moon with that new camera. Okay, let's do a complete pass of the moon with this camera, just to be fair about it. That way you can, yourself with your own eyeballs, you can see the difference. But right off the top, you know it's not going to be as close. Let me see if I can bring out some of the color. And I can bring out some of the color. But that, you know, the closer you get, the less color you will have. So, and again, you're not as close as you were just a little bit ago. I'm absolutely astounded by it. Now, keep in mind one thing. I was using a 5mm lens to show you what I was looking at with that new camera. A 5mm lens, guys. And it's one of those lenses with a big lens. It's not those little tiny lenses, you know, the eyepieces that are big, that are easy on the eyes. That's the key. Got to use the big ones, they're more expensive. Well, I was testing with Mike's. He has a set of lenses that he bought that are all big, and I was using his set. I bought one, though, that was a 3mm lens. A 3mm lens. So it should get us even closer, but I'm not going to run that test tonight. I'll run tomorrow night. I'll run some tests with that. This thing is getting long enough, and I wanted to I try to do these and make them not unduly long. So, and you can see some granularity down there, but you can't see the granularity we were looking at before in the detail. You're just going to have to go back and watch this thing, and that's why I'm doing this whole a complete survey with this other lens, with this other camera. So you'll, on the screen, it should be clear that that we're getting. We got quite a bit more detail with that other. Yeah, I'm pretty excited that we're going to be able to give you a higher quality image. And I've got a lot more tests to do. In particular, I've got to test with that 3mm lens. I've got to test with a solar lens. See, with a solar lens, I should be able to get the moon on one screen. I mean, the entire moon on one screen, and then zoom in. It's called a solar lens, but it's just basically a zoom lens with a zoom that lets you get the entire moon on one screen. And the other thing that I want to test in is I want to use these lenses with the Barlow, all my Barlow. So I have a lot of testing. Let me drop the contrast down. And see, that's the other thing about this new camera, this other new camera. I wasn't doing any adjustments with the brightness or contrast or anything. It was all automatic, and it worked pretty good. Contrast down, camera control, exposure down. That's good enough. Again, I'm showing you the moon right now with the Chinese high definition camera that I've been using for all my moon musings. And we've been patiently awaiting the manufacture of this prototype so that we could conduct some tests. You know, this Chinese camera's been a pretty good camera, but I mean, if you compare the image, I believe we were getting in closer. I'm going to have to watch the video myself and make some decisions on it, but let me turn the exposure up. But I was pretty impressed with how close we could get with that new camera. And it seems to me like the new camera had enough tonal variations to actually make it look prettier in the black-white contrast areas next to the shadow line. I'll have to watch it. And there's our slither, slither, slither. What I'll do, if it works out, I'll show you the camera. I'll show you how to install it, and and how to adjust it and how to use it on a separate video after I've finished conducting my tests. But this video is your first exposure to an experimental test of a new camera that I think turned out pretty darn good. And I think it got us so much closer than we've ever seen. And I'm going to finish it up right here where I left off with a great hope to explore the moon with that new camera and give you even better pictures next month. Let me just turn up the okay, that's it, guys. You have a great Saturday, Sunday weekend. I probably will be able to get one more survey into tonight, and then that'll be it for the about 5 days, because of, you know, we're going into a new moon. In the meantime, I wish you and yours clear skies, guys.